Try and make sure that my bedside table is tidy, that I can find my medications easier. I need to just reset that, and I feel so much better because the things that I need to feel better, I easily accessed. Doing one thing today that makes tomorrow just slightly better, because there's no guarantees I'm going to feel better tomorrow. A good chance I might feel worse. Trying to recharge a battery that only has this much rechargeable space. I've developed a thing called parenting from a chair.
Welcome to the Sick is Cool podcast, the show that's here to empower you, inspire you, and remind you that even in the face of chronic illness, you can lead an extraordinary life. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and I'm thrilled to have you join our community. I understand the daily struggles, the physical and emotional roller coasters, and the relentless search for purpose and joy amidst it all. Although none of us chose to be a part of the Sick Club, here we are, warriors navigating a world that often doesn't understand us. Together, we are going to build a vibrant and supportive community that celebrates resilience and courage of the chronically ill. Now let's dive into today's episode and start reshaping our perspective on chronic illness. All right, Jessie, welcome. We're so excited to get to know you. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about your illnesses and anything else we'd like to know?
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, my name's Jessie. I'm 30 years old, and my husband and I have been together for nearly 12 years now. We have 2 kids, and we actually just moved from Australia to Scotland about a year ago, or nearly a year ago now. My son was actually diagnosed with cancer at the end of 2019, and through that whole whirlwind journey, we just kind of decided that we wanted to be closer to my husband's parents, who've lived here for 10 years, 11 years. And we wanted to be closer to them and closer to family and the people that have supported us. So we booked a one-way ticket and moved over here. Other than that, I am an avid baker. Cupcakes are my specialty. And it is not unusual to find us all crowded in my husband's office watching him play video games and online games and stuff. As far as chronic illnesses, I have severe stage 4 endometriosis. I was actually initially diagnosed at the end of 2019, 4 weeks before my son was diagnosed. His diagnosis out-trumped mine. But it kind of came about after having a C-section in 2017, and the way that they sewed me up, they actually sewed some of the endometrial lining into some of the muscle. So over the space of about a year, 18 months, symptoms, pain just went through the roof. And I started to kind of make a diary of all the different symptoms and would go to my doctor. I'm just like, something's wrong. Like, this is not normal for me. I had bad periods since day dot, but this is different. Saw a bad, really, really bad gynecologist, and he basically was just, no, you're insane. You've got some mental issues. This kind of pain is, not a big deal. I went, well, actually, it is. It's messing up my life. I can't really do anything anymore. Decided to cut out a middleman and find a endo specialist that was he 6 hours away from me, and he did an initial diagnosis through a biopsy to kind of give me a rough idea. But fast forward a couple of years and we're back home from my son's treatment, and pain was just unbearable. I was 3 weeks out of every month in bed, and things were just going through the roof. And I had tried everything from diet, weight loss, being vegan, all the different pain meds, all the different birth controls, all the, the big list that they give you. And nothing was working. Rang my surgeon, was like, right, we need to do a second one. Something else is going on. And he's like, look, you can't really do much more based on the scans that I saw, which, by the way, were 2 years old at that point. He was just like, no, we don't want to do anything else. And I went, okay, no, I need a second opinion. I'm not having that answer. Found someone else after doing some research. Turns out I had severe stage 4. What do they call it? Deep infiltrating endometriosis. And it was everywhere. There wasn't an organ he didn't scrape it off. So I've had 3 surgeries since then, with unfortunately minimal results. I've been vegan for 3 years now because my body just can't process animal products. It won't break it down. I'll just end up in hospital. But trying to avoid, obviously. I'm on a nice big long list of pain medication to try and keep life moving on, to be able to function and all the rest of it. But last result was actually a hysterectomy, which as of 2 weeks ago, I signed the papers for over here, which was fantastic because I found someone that was like, oh, you've already done all the things. Yeah, let's just take this all out, which is helpful because I've actually got the BRCA1 gene, which is the gene that mutates to give you a higher chance of having breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And because my mom, and then going back a few generations, everyone's kind of passed away from ovarian cancer, they're just like, we'll take it all out. So it's kind of helped in the aid of getting hysterectomy and the rest of it. So I'm actually just on the other side of a 9-week flare-up, which has been rough. It's probably the longest stint that I've been through for a while, which has been interesting, and it's been really, really hard on our family. But we're counting down periods now, not trying to just add them all up. So it's a nice change, and it's a very new thing. You're just crossing it off the calendar.
Yeah.
So when you want to go.
So do you have a set date then? You said you had
no. It's somewhere in the next 2 years. I think it's like 110 week or something like that.
Oh,
so, wow. But I've got a few different appointments in between there, like a HRT specialist and a bowel surgeon and all that sort of stuff to kind of see and check off the list just to make sure that I'm as good as I can get before going into surgery. So,
wow,
it's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And you're a mother, and you started your own business, right, with cupcakes, or you're starting?
I'm starting to. Yeah.
Okay. Very exciting. If I lived closer, I would definitely come get them. We have all my kids have birthdays like within a few weeks of each other, so it's like it's birthday season. We need cupcakes over here.
And they're so easy with kids. You don't have to cut anything up. You can just go. You're fine.
Yep. It's awesome. But that is so much to deal with. Let's take a minute to talk about the sponsor of today's episode, Let's Get Checked. Let's Get Checked is a worldwide leader in at-home health tests that puts you in control of your healthcare. With Let's Get Checked, you don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. You don't have to go to a lab to get your blood drawn. It's very convenient. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in discreet packaging. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. Let's Get Checked laboratories are CLIA approved and CAP accredited, which are the highest ranking levels of accreditation. Your results are reviewed by Let's Get Checked's clinical team, and you'll have the option for a virtual consultation to discuss your results. In some cases, the clinical team can prescribe a medication that can be sent to your pharmacy of choice. I've tried out Let's Get Checked a few times now, and it's been so helpful in finding some help that I needed. I was going through a period where I had very limited energy. My fatigue seemed at its worst, and I was easily able to get my thyroid checked. And as someone who has young kids, very difficult to leave the house. It was so convenient to be able to take my blood test at home, send it in the mail, and have my results within a few days. Get easy to understand and actionable health insights in 2 to 5 days from the comfort of your own home. Visit trylgc.com/Aimee, that's AIMEE, to get 25% off your at-home test kit today. Everything you need is linked in the podcast show notes or in the description on the YouTube version of this podcast. Thanks again to Let's Get Checked for sponsoring this video. I am a big fan of them, and let's get back to the episode. So how do you, I feel like everybody says, like, how do you do it all? How do you take care of the kids and the house and your health and the finances and all of those things that come up with?
Well, I actually redefine what all is. So, is it putting everything on a massive list and then trying to check it off? Yes, but no at the same time. I stopped beating myself over constantly playing catch up, constantly just feeling like I'm missing everything and I could do everything. So I just defined what everything is. Chronic pain is so hard on everyone else around us. I guess my husband and I have figured out that being a team is the only way to go forward. Whether that means you kind of get extra help coming in, but we were doing this by ourselves for such a long time before we got over here and had extra help. It was just, him and I against the world. So we really tried to kind of nail down of like, okay, what's an essential thing that you have to get done today? And, if you've only got 5 things to get done, then that's doing it all, essentially, rather than trying to schedule everything all at once, trying to do it all at one day. You space it out and like, okay, I've got the capacity to do, 7 things today. What's the most important thing for me to get done today? If it's a shower, it's showering. Because I'm stuck in bed so much of the time, I kind of use that time to get done the things that I normally wouldn't be able to if I was too busy running around. So you can kind of get done all the, banking and the budgeting and all that sort of stuff where your body doesn't work, but your brain is spinning a million miles an hour.
Yeah, that's
kind of just good. You shift gears on what your body can do versus not doing, but also just being at peace with not being able to do a normal person's 100%. I think you and your husband actually did a podcast not long ago, and he said, he was like, I have no doubt that Aimee gives 100% every single day. And immediately you're just like, yeah, well, that's like another person's like 20%.
Right. Yeah, that's what it feels like.
But I'm like, it's still a version of 100%. And if you're okay with that, even if other people are just like, well, that's nothing. And you're like, no, but it's my everything. I can't do it all, but I can give my all. And that's the easiest way to kind of do it all, I suppose.
Yeah, I love that. Like, it doesn't have to be what everybody else's like 100% is. The other day, somebody in my neighborhood asked me to bring dinner to my neighbor who had lost one of their parents. And I was like, I want to help, but can I? Like, I can't even make dinner for my own kids. Like, what? So I ordered them a pizza. I'm like, you know what? Like, it might not have been the healthiest option. It might not have been like the best like homemade meal anyone's ever seen. But like, I asked them, do you guys like pizza? And they're like, yes, we love pizza. And it turned out that was actually the best thing for them, because they were like, we just kind of wanted some comfort food. So it was great. Like, you didn't have to make a homemade meal. We were totally fine with that. And even if that's like all I can give is to just call someone to order pizza, that's what
pick up the phone, I can do.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we all have different times in our lives where we can do more, right? Even with chronic illness, like you were saying, you're getting out of a big flare. That's a time to cut out as much as you can. Like, what can we cut out, and what is actually essential here? And I've slowly like invested in some things like a robot vacuum and things like that like help just with, might cost a little bit more money, but it helps with, not putting so much on myself. I can sometimes can afford financially things. Sometimes that's also a tricky topic, obviously. But
yeah,
like, can we ask other people, are there other options? And what is the absolute minimum we can do during those really severe times where we're struggling?
Oh yeah, for sure. You kind of go into like survival mode.
Yeah.
What do we need to get done to get through today? And then we'll head into tomorrow and deal with that one then.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I always get in my head of like, oh, but I'm always in survival mode. I have to remind myself that like, it's okay. It's okay that like we were in survival mode 2 months ago and now we're in it again. And we were a little bit out of it. We didn't completely come out. That's okay. Like, even if your survival mode feels like it's lasting like years or whatever until you get your surgery or until something improves or until like your kids are older, whatever makes things easier, it's okay to still give yourself that grace that you can still like do things at a minimum. Like my closet is just full of laundry right now. Instead of folding it, I just throw it all. It's clean. I just throw it in there and like, hey kids, go dig out your clothes. Cause that's something that's like, it's a no. I can clean your laundry. I can put it in the washing machine. I can't fold it right now. I can't put it away. And that's going to be okay for right now.
I cannot tell you how many times my daughter would come down the stairs wearing like a tie-dye rainbow shirt and then like polka dot pants. And you're like, Okay, that's your vibe today. Cool.
Yep. Yeah.
And I'll be
I
able
don't
to
have the
change it.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take a minute to talk about the sponsor of this episode, Southern New Hampshire University. SNHU is one of the largest accredited nonprofit online degree offerings in the country. SNHU has so many amazing online programs to help you gain the experience you need to find the career of your dreams. Although there are many amazing online programs at SNHU, the one I want to share with you today is Healthcare Admin. This program was developed to align with the curriculum principles established by the Association of University Programs in Health Administration. Gain the knowledge and skills to develop your career in leading healthcare organizations such as hospitals, physician offices, care facilities, and more. You'll learn how to plan, direct, and coordinate health services and work closely with medical staff to positively impact patient care. Develop strong stakeholder communication tactics and operational strategies. Learn database decision-making and how to develop and maintain ethical policies and regulations and positive company culture. SNHU is radically affordable. Their online tuition rates are some of the lowest in the nation. Just head to snhu.edu/Aimee, that's AIMEE, to see what the current average salary for this program is and request free information about the program. When you request this information, a real person will hop on a call and discuss how the program can benefit you personally. It only takes one click to find your calling. Thanks again to SNHU for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get back to the podcast. What routines do you have set in place for some of the things you do, whether cleaning, meal planning, parenting, self-care, or all of it? How do you set up those routines?
Routines. Now we're talking my language. So about it's a bit complicated. So just bear with me. I kind of went through a season of really wanting to be intentional with my day, and this was kind of before chronic illness really set in. Tried to overhaul my entire life. But I was making intentional steps anyway. And so it was a organic progression to kind of go into sort of a more minimalistic lifestyle with not really understanding what that was. Because I felt like I could never keep my house clean, ever. And I thought the way to do that would to have a perfect cleaning routine. So oh my God, so embarrassing. I had a massive wall that was filled with daily, weekly, monthly, and then like 6 monthly jobs and routines to kind of clean up. The problem was that the sicker I got, the more days I missed. And the more days I missed, the more catch up I would have to do. Therefore, the more tired I would be, the more days I'd missed. Insert vicious cycle here. So after we went through everything with our son, we kind of got thrown into minimalism, really kind of on the deep end. And my planning went out the window entirely. So I had to kind of almost start from scratch. And it's amazing of what you can live without. But then I realized that our schedule wasn't so much time sensitive. It's what you have to get done and when you can get it done. That is a schedule in itself. It also allows for flexibility of pain days and kids things and, life in general. But I kind of got it down to every room in my house should take no more than 5 minutes to clean up. And if it does, we've got an issue. I follow, her name's Gwenna from Mama Cusses, and she's a very gentle parenting, responsive parenting type TikToker. That sounds so weird to say, TikToker. But she often says that a action should trigger an autopilot response. So, for example, my kids, when they walk in the door from school, they have a very specific spot to put their shoes. When they do that action, they put their spot under the stool, their bag goes on top, then they empty their bag, then they go upstairs, get changed, get ready for the next day. We've been working on it for the past 6 weeks or something, and it's an automatic thing. They can be talking to me about their day and still get the things done. They don't even think about it anymore. So for me, that's a routine because it can happen at whatever time of the day. So, getting up in the morning, when you put your school uniform on, then you can automatically make your bed, and then you go downstairs and you get your breakfast, etc., etc. It's an autopilot thing. It takes a lot to kind of get into it, and it takes a sort of nagging, and hey, that's not the order we do things in. But after a while, it's autopilot, and it gets triggered by just doing one action, or you put on a particular song and you're like, oh no, it's cleaning time. And I'm like, yes, it is. Yeah. It's kind of a bigger effort now for a long-term ease, which is really, with chronic pain, is kind of what you need. You need the house to function even if you're. So we really work at trying to make sure that not that the house can take care of itself, but other people can slide into the spots that I'm missing, and they're not having to ask me a million questions. So it filters through everything, but if you kind of want to nail it down, we've got 4 routines. We've got a 4 p.m. tidy up. I have a very specific alarm sound that goes off, and my kids can hear that alarm from anywhere in the house, and you're instantly, oh, it's 4 o'clock. And you're like, yes, it is.
I love it.
Like that one.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. You got to stop the podcast. Go.
Cleaning time. So we do that, and we start in the same room. We do every room in the same order so that we're not having to think. I don't have to use brain power. Kids can get it done. If someone else is coming over, the kids go, oh no, this is how we clean it up. And it works so very well. Also, Dana from The Slob Comes Clean on YouTube has a hour-long video, and every 5 minutes there's an alarm that goes off, like on her actual video, and we put that on every time. And every time that a bell goes off, we change to a different room, and it's fantastic. You have that song that comes on, and everyone goes, oh, it's cleaning time. Okay, we'll get into the mindset, and we're good to go. So we've got that one. We've got a kitchen tidy up routine, which is essentially we start on one bench, one side, and we kind of go around and then come back to the sink. And we just do that automatically. And it helps because you do one section at a time, and eventually you look around, you're like, oh, my kitchen's done. Yay. But again, it's starting at the same spot every single time, which sounds really boring, but actually it doesn't require brain power, which we have such limited space of. What's the other one we do? We have afternoon school routine, and then we have a morning checklist, which we are working on improving, kind of in the transition from doing afternoon stuff to kind of getting a morning routine, which is difficult because it means that I have to get up and nag them when I haven't had coffee, and that's not a good idea. But again, what works for our family may not work for everyone else's family. We've just, through my kids getting older, now they're both at school. It's a different flow. It's a different season.
Yeah.
But which kind of leads into parenting. I've developed a thing called parenting from a chair, which is essentially I need to be able to control an outburst or an overwhelming situation with just the sound of my voice, which takes a lot of work. And it takes a lot of work in a non-heightened emotional or stress situation. I do, since my kids were little, we do breathing exercises, we do self-regulating stuff. It started because my daughter actually had high social anxiety. And so we would have to teach her how to read if we weren't there. So especially if she was going to a preschool or something like that, she would almost go into like this panic attack. I'm like, right, I'm not having that. She has to learn how to calm herself down. So then we did that with our son Charlie, who turned out to be a very good thing because he was in high stress, hospital situations. You've got to maintain eye contact. Like, I know it hurts. You just have to take a deep breath and we can get through this. But again, I don't have to physically get involved with that. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of trust. It's a lot of eye contact. But we didn't, but we kind of do now, do gentle parenting, responsive parenting, so that essentially our kids can think for themselves, to make good choices, and to think above the noise of overwhelming emotions. I was listening to a podcast recently, actually, and they called it the toddler grief theory, of where, like, when was the last time you experienced a new emotion? And if you have a new emotion, it's so overwhelming and so stressful. And then you think about how people that are just learning to human from scratch, every emotion is overwhelming. And so when you think of it like that, you're like, oh, okay, the empathy rolls in. You're like, okay, I've got those skills. I can teach you those skills. The other thing that my husband and I have kind of really nailed down on is we're a team. Don't even try and break us up. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. No one says yes without the other one. Just don't even go there. It's not going to work.
I love it.
Especially our kids are cheeky. So they will try. They will really try. It's like, Dad said yes. It's like, no, I didn't. We communicate. One of these weird couples that actually talk to each other. But also with chronic pain, I'm actually really honest with what I'm feeling. It's not that, oh, Mummy's fine. It's no, actually, I'm really sore today, because kids know everything, and they may not be able to label it or put words to it, but they know something's wrong. So we actually had a very frank conversation, because they were waiting for me to get better. They were waiting after a resting period, after you've had a cold, and take all the medicine and all the rest of it. It's like, oh, Mum's going to get better. And I was actually, no, I'm not. Because no matter how much I eat the right thing, or how much I rest, or, the platter of medication that you take, I may feel better, but I'm not going to get better. So it was a bit of a hard conversation of, no, this is the reality, but we have to live outside of that, and trying to kind of move forward as a family, to do it as a team, but also being sensitive to the fact that that's a lot of emotion to kind of go, hey, Mum's not well and I can't fix it, which is all kids really want to do. They just make you smile and be happy and all the rest of it. And my kids are so weird. They're so weird that they're funny, and you can't help but laugh because they don't realize that they're funny. Like, you're just like, you can overhear their conversation and you're like, I came at the wrong end of that, but what are you talking about?
Yeah. No, that's so true. Remind me the ages.
10 and 5.
And 5.
Although
Okay.
he turns 6 in a few weeks. He keeps reminding me.
Yeah.
Counting down sleeps. And I'm like,
yes.
Oh, we've reached this age now that we know numbers.
Yes. My daughter's 4. She's counting down until she turns 5 too. So
best age. The best age. Their personality just starts to like erupt out of them. And you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. Love it.
Oh dear. I put things in dot points, because otherwise my brain is all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, self-care. That was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other one I was thinking.
Well, I've already learned so much. Like, I think you came at the perfect time, because I was struggling with all this. Like, how do I help my kids learn? How do I clean faster? Like, I'm loving all of this. So keep going.
It takes time. It takes practice. It takes bad days. And it takes, honestly, crying on the floor with an eyebrow raised going, you are driving me insane. Just pick up the tissue and put it in the bin.
Okay, that makes me feel more normal.
Oh, no. My daughter's personality is, she's a high thinker, like a high thinker, but she's equally lazy. And the two counteract each other. So, but it's also kind of genius, because she will find a way to put in the least amount of effort to get things done, which is brilliant. Chronic pain people.
Yeah.
We're like, why didn't I think of that?
That's amazing.
Genius. But also it means that it takes a lot for her to kind of get going.
Right.
Whereas my son he wakes up at 100% and he goes to sleep at like 120%. So we have to try and channel all of that energy in a goal-orientated way. Otherwise, he's a tornado on legs. So trying to get them to understand what it is. But either way, we went through the same battle of I would take their hands, pick up the toys, and physically show them where I wanted to put them. And then they were like, oh, that's what, like, yes, that's what we've been spending 20 minutes on.
Yeah.
Trying to communicate. Okay, I had to just show you.
Right. Like it might take more energy at the beginning, but remember that it will save you energy in the long run.
Exactly.
So good. So good.
What was I going on to? Self-care. Self-care. Thank you.
Oh, I am literally this morning, my husband's like, you got to do stuff for yourself. I'm like, to do. So teach me. What do we do?
Okay. So when I see self-care, when people mention it, I immediately think of that like 2000s rom-com movie where they have like the bubble baths and the face masks and they're painting their toes luxuriously and reading magazines that you've never really heard of and probably don't exist anymore. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. Like that sounds so much effort for such little gain.
Right.
Like I need quick dry nail polish and I need it to never chip. I kind of figured out that self-care means that I need to recharge my batteries in whatever way that fits. I need to put me first to be the best version so that I can help my family. It sounds counterproductive. You've got to be selfish in order to be selfless. Oh, that sounded very poetic.
It did.
Mom guilt and wife guilt is a thing. And you're like, I'm really sorry, but I need you just to give me a minute. I need you to give me like an hour. Just let me feel however it is I need to feel, and I will come back a different person. Usually, if I'm really just in a bad mood, it means that my pain is not under control and I'm not aware of it. Is kind of the thing. And it's, let me take some pain meds. Let me have a shower. Someone give me a cup of coffee when I get out of the shower and I will be a completely different. It also means getting things for myself that make me feel just a little bit more put together. So for me, I have really shiny gold under eye masks that sit under my eyes while I drink my coffee. They probably don't do anything, but they make me feel fancy. And I like feeling a little fancy every now and then, even if I look like death warmed up.
That's so great.
I'm like, the under eye bags is a real thing when you haven't been out of sleep for a while. But also putting on like really good upbeat music and just being able to pot around my house with no one asking anything from me does wonders for my soul. Again, it also depends if I've got the energy to do that. But it's one of those things that I've got like big noise cancelling headphones. And if my kids see me with those on, they don't even bother to talk to me because I can't hear them. It's like I can see their mouths moving and I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That it's the allowing yourself to feel everything without little eyes watching. And it's really important for them to see how you process things. Sometimes your people breathing is irritating to your skin. And so you're like, I need you to give me a minute. Tomorrow I'll be better. Tomorrow this won't even be a thing. But right now I'm in a bad mood. Hand me a cup of tea, throw some food in my direction, and just leave me alone for a minute. And I will be fine.
I love it. Yeah.
So like that's my, I guess, version of self-care, because I'm trying to recharge a battery that only has this much rechargeable space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
essentially.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend just yesterday, actually, because I was feeling like drained and I need to recharge. And I was like, but I don't know what I need. Like, and I was, of course, complaining, like, and then I have all these illnesses and I talk to other moms and they have stuff they do, but I can't. I don't have the energy, or I'm in too much pain or whatever. And she's like, what if you stop trying to figure out what you need to do and first figure out how you want to feel? Because do you need peace? Do you need, do you just need to feel calm? Do you need to feel happy? Like all of those things will bring different like action. And so step back from, okay, what do I need to do and what do I need to feel? And then figure out in my situation where I'm at, how can I feel that way? How can I create that emotion if I'm in bed? Like sometimes like I need to like do something productive, I find. But like you were saying, if I'm in bed, it feels like, oh, but if I could clean my house, if I could go weed the garden or whatever. But instead, I need to feel productive, but can I do something in bed that still creates that feeling of like that I'm accomplishing something, that I'm doing something?
I try and make sure that my bedside table is tidy and that I can find my medications easier. If I can't find those and I'm having to dig through my drawer, I'm like, right, I need to just reset that, and I feel so much better because the things that I need to feel better are easily accessed. So even if it's just that I swing my, legs on the edge of the bed, I can sit and I can sort that I can do. But, I may not be able to vacuum the house or anything like that. But, if I can find my medication,
then you're good. I love it. No, that's so good because we do think like all or nothing. My brain always goes like, I either got to do everything and do this huge project or it's not worth it. Like, no, actually, I will feel better just doing that one small project. I can sit on the floor, clean out my side table, and I will feel better doing that. Even though my brain thinks it has to be this huge, gigantic thing. The small stuff really does add up. And then the more you do the small stuff, it's like you don't have to do the big, huge, like all day cleaning or all week cleaning, right? So I find that minimizing my stuff, I've done lots of declutter videos. Actually, I have a video, I think it's going out right before this one, where I got rid of all my kids' toys. I did an experiment and I was just like, we're going to take them all out. So you have to watch that video. But having less stuff helps, right? So what are your tips for how to minimize so that you have less stuff to clean up? Whether it's, maybe it's minimizing stuff, maybe it's minimizing like your diet, or so meal planning's easier, or parenting. Like, well, how do you minimize if that's something you struggle with?
First tip is go find Dawn from the Minimal Mom, and she will explain everything and give you a realistic view of what minimalistic life looks like, and then how the hell to get. She actually has a thing called the time will tell bin, which is where you kind of put stuff in a bin for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you haven't needed it or you haven't pulled it back out. You just get rid of it. My time will tell bin that was supposed to last 30 days kind of lasted 365 days because I was away from my house for 365 days. So if we didn't rebuy it, it was given to us. Essentially, it's amazing what you can live without. So I was kind of already in the headspace of wanting to declutter, but not knowing how to do it. And then, because we were in hospital for 8 weeks straight, and you kind of are in this tiny little one-hour thing, and so you have to get by with the smallest amount of things. And then we went from a big 4-bedroom home to living very quickly, and I mean like life-changing within 24 hours type timing, to a very small 2-bedroom, isolated, self-contained apartment. And she kind of like, I have 1 spoon and 1 spatula and a very unusually small size whisk. Yeah, this is fine. We've got, a tiny fry pan and a massive saucepan. We will make it work. This is fine. So I think in doing that, it was just an extended time will tell bin. And if I didn't repurchase it, and if I didn't go, oh, I really, really wish I had that, when we got back home, it left. And I kind of started with the thing that I used the most, which was my kitchen. And I didn't do it all at once. It took a couple of years, but I would do it drawer by drawer by drawer by drawer. And what happens is over time, your decluttering muscles get stronger and you realize you can make faster decisions and you don't get as fatigued as quickly, and you can kind of go, do I need 7 pillowcases that don't match any of my doona covers just in case? No, I don't. I really don't. It's fine. And I think because we'd already made the decision to move to Scotland as well, there was a bit of an extra push of, are we going to take this to Scotland? Like, is this worth that precious space in that one container? Because we had, I think if you exclude my KitchenAid that I brought with me and my husband's computer that he needed for work, we had 11 boxes.
Wow.
11 boxes, 4 suitcases, and 4 bags. Like, that's what we took. We got rid of everything else. So we could have taken more, but we kind of got it down to what is the most important thing that we need. And if we weren't going to buy it at the other end because it was cheaper, we brought it with us, essentially. So it was if I use this or it has, I've had it for 10 years, kind of something, and I use this every single day and I can't rebuy it, it comes with you, essentially. But the end goal, if you remove the Scotland moving, the end goal was, even in my worst pain, I wanted to be able to keep my house clean. And so you kind of have to go backwards a little bit. It makes it easier to clean if everything has a home. You can't put anything at home until you kind of get rid of all the stuff to put it in its spot. And now that we live in a much smaller home, we don't have storage space for everything. So my kids' toys are literally just off to the side and they have 9 cubes and that's it. I'm like, if we're needing extra bags for the toys, you've got too much. I'm sorry, you don't play with the ones you have anyway. You play with sticks in the backyard.
Right. Oh, totally.
Honestly, you play with the cardboard box instead of the toy that cardboard box was in.
Exactly. Yeah. Spoiler on my video. My kids didn't even notice. They asked one time for something. No, my husband didn't notice. He didn't notice that I got rid of all the toys. No one did. I mean, I am always reorganizing stuff, so they probably just were like, "Oh, mom just moved stuff," but they just find something else to play with. They didn't even notice. It's crazy.
Yeah. I guess, the less inventory you have, the less you have to constantly think about it to manage it. We, as chronic pain people, we have such a small tank of energy anyway. I don't know about you, but I would much rather put it towards spending time with my husband and my kids than I would, try to get that one pair of pants out of that one drawer that just will never close. So it's again one of those big effort for a long-term ease type things. And it takes quick but intentional decisions to put things away rather than down. I know Dawn always says that it should be just as easy to put it away than it should be to leave it on your bench. And I'm like, how do you get to that spot? Sounds fantastic. My house isn't anywhere near as extreme as hers because I like coffee tables and nowhere near the amount of cushions that she does. But I think, we've got one summer set of sheets and one winter set of sheets, and that's it. And we might replace them in another year's time because they're perfectly fine for right now. I simplified. Actually, that's one of the very first things that I did. I simplified our bedding because when we lived away for a year, we had white sheets that got replaced for us every week, and we had one doona cover. That's it for an entire year. Did I get really sick of looking at the same blue doona cover? Absolutely, and it went in the bin the minute we got home. But it was fine because we cleaned it every week. It wasn't a big deal. So when I got home, my daughter had pink sheets and my son had blue sheets. We had 2 sets of each, and it was no longer what sheet do you want to put with this doona cover? It's you only have pink sheets. That is the only choice that you have. And so it removed a decision. Therefore, I had more bandwidth to think about something else instead.
Yeah.
It's the less you have to think, the more energy you have. So I know Dawn really went through a season of she only wore black, which is ironic because I'm wearing a black shirt today. That was not planned. Because she didn't want to have to think. She just wanted to be able to put on clothes and keep going with her day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, if you kind of apply that thinking, which is so basic, and you're just like, oh, but I like variety. I like that thing. It's like, how's that working out for you? You're just tired from decision making before your feet have even hit the floor. The only person that can change that is you. So let's start with something that you use all the time. Cutlery. Let's trim that down, see how you feel, and go to the next door and see how you feel with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, even with clothes, like I have just noticed that like I've cut back on any clothes that were like, oh, I only wear these on date nights, or only wear these like, no, if it's not comfortable, I'm not going to wear it because I know myself. And if I pull it out and I'm like, oh, but what if I don't end up doing that thing I was going to do today? What if I end up on the couch all day? I don't want to wear that. Like, then it's out. Like, if I can now, it's nice, like with clothes and stuff and with technology, like there's just so many options now that I can say with clothes, I want it to be cute, but I also like, I will not wear it if it's comfortable. If I think I'm going to go on a date night and have to come back and change when I get home, then it shouldn't be in my closet because first of all, our date nights never last very long because I'm too sick. And also, like, what's the point of being miserable or like not being comfortable? Like, it's just silly, these things that we do. And I love the idea of just like putting it away. And if like you don't miss it, then you don't need it, right?
You really don't. No, buttery soft clothing is, I'm like, actually, I have 2 pairs of jeans. There is my standing all day pants. And there's the pants I have to sit down in and eat. If they cross over, I'm wearing something else.
Yeah. I love it.
Like one pair of pants will fall down and the other one will not, but I cannot eat in one. And I can in the other.
Yeah. That's so good. I love it. Yeah. And oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, because it's so cold now, my thing of like just chucking on a sundress and going on with my day isn't a thing anymore. So I've had to really struggle to find pants, track pants. And sizing here is so different. So I went from, oh yeah, these fit, to going, they fit, but also I'm suffocating and everything hurts and I just want to put my pajama pants back on. Okay, I need to find new pants.
Yeah. Yeah, if I have a thought like that, it's like, then why do I have these? If I have to even think, oh, when do I get to take these off? Like, what, I don't know if I need that, right? And I just found out, sorry, now I forgot, ADHD, good grief, that's forgetful. Okay, anyway.
And point.
I found that. And now I'm like, okay, it makes sense why I have such a hard time keeping my routines. And so I need to simplify even more. Like I thought I was living minimally, but then it's like, how come still I'm getting these piles of random crap that I just don't end up putting away? And it's, I gotta like every few months I have to go through my house and like minimize things. And if not, like I have a really hard time putting stuff away after I use it. But if it looks nice and it has like its own spot where I know, okay, this is exactly where our pencils go. And I had just got this little pencil organizer. Like all the pencils go here. And now I actually put them back because there's not 12 places in my house where like, oh, sometimes if I'm in the kitchen, I throw my pencil here or, it's like, no, there's only one spot where pencils go. I only have one pair of scissors. If I lose them, I will search until I find them instead of like, oh, I must have left them somewhere. I'm just going to get a new pair. Like if you have less stuff, those kind of things don't happen as much because if you lose it, you're going to search and find it, right? Like you don't need a bunch of the same thing, right?
Yep. Yeah, I've done everything from my kids to have the same pair of socks. Just, I will only buy
that's what my kids.
A lot of socks. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because then you're not like, oh, it's a pink one and a blue one, which my daughter will wear. She will wear one of each. But I'm like, just for the sake of let's pretend that we know how to put ourselves together, just across the board.
Right.
I kind of, because I'm terrible at asking for help. And I like my kitchen cleaned a specific way. I kind of organize my kitchen in an idiot for. So that it makes complete sense to whoever walks in. So I have a coffee section of my bench, and above that is the tea and coffee and all the other teas that everyone drinks when they come over. Right next to that, I've got my stove, but above the stove, I've got all my oils and all my spices. And then because my toaster is out on the bench, right above that is all the bread. It just makes sense of where it is. I've got one side of baking and then one side of all the cooking and sauces and pasta. And then there's an entire cupboard of snacks. No one touches the snack cupboard. It is sacred territory. It's like, I need my snacks, you need your snacks. It's a thing. But I kind of did it on the basis of, if someone else is going to come in and clean my house and put things away that I need them to do, I need them to not ask me a million questions. So let's organize my house in a way that makes sense to other people so that it's easy, which helps because so many people will walk into the house and be like, oh, this goes here, and just automatically open a cupboard if they've never been here before. And you're like, oh, that's where that went. You're like, yes, it's where it's supposed to go.
I love that. Yeah. And I like to do things according to, I notice when I leave stuff out, where am I leaving it out? And what's my natural tendency? My kids love, we do almond butter sandwiches. And okay, if we eat these a lot, I should put those in the cabinet in the kitchen instead of back in the pantry, because I would never put it away. But if it was close to me, it was I would just put it away easier. Or our bathroom, we just leave all of our stuff out. The kid's trying to get in. Oh, okay, we're good. We would just leave our toothpaste out and stuff. And I had drawers for it and organized, but I was we just keep leaving it out. So instead, I just got a little tray, and now all the stuff we keep leaving out just goes on the tray. So it's now I can see that it's easier, and it's just silly, and maybe it's ADHD or I don't know, but me and my husband both, we have such a hard time, just that one little step. So how can we make it easier? What's the thing we naturally do? If we're always leaving our clothes on the bathroom floor, well, the hamper should be in the bathroom, not in the bedroom, right? And so it's just things like that you got to notice, because you got to make it as easy as possible for yourself, or if you're like me, you won't do it.
Exactly. There's a few things we've had to adjust to UK life, where our washing machine is in the kitchen. All right. It adds an extra 5 minutes to the kitchen cleanup, because technically it's 2 rooms in one. But it means that our bathroom is tiny. Because you'd often have a bathroom attached to a laundry, or there'd be 2 separate rooms in Australia. So when we got here, and we're like, what? The bathrooms here are tiny. There is no storage in bathrooms here. I am yet to go to a house that has the big mirror cabinet thing that I'm so used to. It's not a thing here. So I had to create storage. So our dirty clothes go in the bathtub, because that's the only space that's left.
I love it.
So our shower doesn't have room for a shower hook things where you can put all your shampoos and conditioners. So we have to leave them on the floor, which is so frustrating when you've got 4 people that all use a completely different shampoo and conditioner, because we've all got different skin issues. And so you're I'm either claustrophobic, or I have to figure out another way. So my husband and I put in a little corner a stand thing that had some different shelves on it, but the kids leave their shampoo and conditioner outside, so they have to remember to bring it into the shower with them. Otherwise we get this, Mom, can I have the soap? Yeah. No, actually, you have to get out and get it all by yourself, and you have to freeze because it's -2. But I've had to create storage, and because I can't create a lot of storage, we don't have extras of anything. If we run out of shampoo and conditioner, we've run out of shampoo and conditioner. We don't get to buy it till the next month. You have to get creative. Yeah. Or you're just going to have to not have, washed hair. But there's so much. Oh, I miss my linen cupboard. I don't have a linen cupboard. I got so used to having a linen cupboard.
Yeah, we don't have one here either.
I'm like, I got so used to just throwing everything, the vacuum cleaner goes in there and the extras of everything goes in there. And the random pillow that you ended up with that you're not really sure how it showed up in your house.
Right.
Way up the back. I'm like, so we've got sheets and storage and like, where do your towels go when they're clean? And you're like, oh, yeah, not on the back of the door. They've got to get folded up in a random spot somewhere. So our stuff is still filtering through all the different bits and pieces. And I would love to create a linen cupboard one day because it'll solve all of those like toolbox things. And, where does your iron go and your ironing board? Right now they're in random spots in the kitchen. And you've kind of got to constantly think of where did I put them sort of something, because the laundry catch-all designation doesn't exist. So
Right.
we're trying to like filter the bathroom situation essentially. And because our bathroom is upstairs and the washing machine is downstairs, we have to remember that if the bathtub is full, that's like 3 loads of clothes. So we can't wait for our container to be full.
Right.
Because it's too much.
Yeah.
And nothing dries over here.
Wow. Yeah. And I think every house and every person and what you need and don't need is unique. And you really do have to get creative with those things. Like certain things at this house that we didn't have at our last house. And it's like, that's weird. Why don't we have that here? And I'm so used to the way things were. You have to just get creative and like, how can I figure it out? Notice like what you naturally do. Where do you naturally put your towel? Is there a way we can set that up to make it easier? But also know that like you might have to get creative and you might have to like teach yourself, kind of like you would teach your kid, like, nope, I got to do every time I got to go get the towel, right? That's so good.
Yeah.
So how do you balance giving yourself rest so that you can, I know we don't always feel better when we rest, but we need it. How do you balance the rest and being productive? How do you do that?
Prioritizing. Honestly, prioritize. I will write myself a list of either the top 3 or the top 5 things to kind of get done that day. And it's going to sound terrible, but I juggle it with TV episodes. So a TV episode will go, 45, 55 minutes. At the end of that episode, you get up and you do that one thing on a task and then watch another episode while you're resting and lying down and dying to get back to your heat back. Then when that finishes, you do something else.
Love it.
And it takes all day. It takes all day to get 5 things done. But you're still mentally okay and you have still moved forward in some direction, essentially. It's really hard to think above the noise of pain. Something other than to have a thought is winning for that day.
Right.
But my husband and I were just talking about this today, trying to figure out the middle ground instead of being like 0 to 100%. Because if you can't be 100%, then what's the point? Trying to find a middle ground and what that looks like, because we don't think in short-term, one-day plans. We've got to think long-term plans. How can I sustain this for the foreseeable future? And it's the doing one thing today that makes tomorrow just slightly better, because there's no guarantees I'm going to feel better tomorrow. There's a good chance I might feel worse. But current Jessie can help out future Jessie with something. But I've kind of nailed it down to, if I can get 5 things done, the most important things done, which will be different every single day, I've moved my life forward in some direction. I mean, on worst days, I've put go sit outside as a task because I am needing fresh air, my body. Things like cooking dinner or teaching my kids to cook dinner is on the list of things to kind of accomplish. But it kind of ties into that changing what you think all really means. because it's so important to feel like you're not stuck in this little tiny pain bubble and everyone's like trying to get in, but you can't form a rational thought because everything is just too much. So you nail it down to, hey, you know what? Today I actually really need to take a shower and I need to be in clean pajamas. Okay, I don't have any clean pajamas. Maybe doing a load of washing first is a little more of priority.
I love that. Yeah.
And just kind of doing something that's a thing for yourself, a thing for your kids, and like a thing for your house. And a few other things sprinkled in there that'll make you feel better. Make sure that you're taking a step forward rather than being stationary.
I love that. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a huge
downhill from there.
Yeah, it can be a small step, right? And I love that. Like, one thing for me, one thing for my kids, and that's it. Like, you don't have to do more today. And I just like to, like, I always tell myself, like, I will have a day where I'll be able to do more. And every once in a while it comes up and it's great. But today, what do I need to do? What is the most important thing for me and my mental health and my physical health? And what's the most important thing for my kids? I love that. That's so good. So what advice do you have for someone who maybe struggles to make a list or schedule things, whether it's because of their illness or mentally they struggle? What should they do?
So I was actually thinking about this a lot because I love writing lists. It helps organize my brain and I really like checking things off. You know, you write a list on the list of things to do and you can check it off. But lists are hard for people because if you don't cross everything off, you feel like you've failed. Yeah, essentially. So you change what you put on your list. Make it achievable. You make it as small or as big as you need to. Like I said, I've put go sit outside as a thing on my to-do list because I needed to leave the bedroom at some point. But start really small. Start so small. And then you kind of get, you almost get like that dopamine rush for being able to cross it off. And then you can do something else. And then the next day you can, write 6 things instead of 5 things. And the other thing I really, really like doing, especially when I've got all of these things that are spinning on my brain, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. You do like a massive brain dump. You open up a document and you write everything you could possibly think of in whatever random order it comes out in. And you just dump it all on a thing. And then you close it. And then you don't look at it. And you come back in a few months and you can check it again. Rather than writing it or reading it through and then go feeling so overwhelmed that you can't do any of it. And then you will never get it done. It's like dump, close, we will deal with that another day. I'll often open it back up, maybe take 1 or 2 things and try and get them done within the month and then close it again. But it's there. It's a big dump and I'm not constantly going over it in my head going, oh, I've got to remember that. I've got to remember that thing because that just takes brain effort that I don't have time for. I don't have spare cells. Do you remember that one thing that happened that one time?
Yeah, in my sorry.
No, you go.
Just in my productivity workbook, instead of calling it a to-do list, I call it a wish list because it just like changed that mindset of like, it's not like you have to do this thing or you're a bad person. It's like, oh, this is one of the things I wanted to do. It's on my wish list. Just like you as a kid, right? We had wish lists.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. The other thing people always think of a schedule as a time-sensitive thing. And it's, you don't wake up at 6 a.m., for 40 odd weeks in a row. And then all of a sudden it's a thing. Like that's not how a trigger works. It's, you do things in the same order. Like that's a schedule. You've got doctor's appointments and school things. And, that's a schedule in itself. It doesn't have to be, 7 a.m. I put my pants on. 7:45 I have cereal. Like it's, your pain cannot read, nor does it care about the time.
It does not.
So there's no point trying to squeeze something that is bound to explode everywhere. You will only go insane, and it will only end in tears. And trying to save tears for important things, not, because you've spilled butter on the floor. But it's starting, and it's being kind, and it's giving yourself space, because it will get frustrating that you're looking at something that the normal, regular people should get done. Like, I think one of the biggest things I struggle with is actually remaking our bed, because it takes so much physical effort to re-put the sheets back on that I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I remember I was so fatigued that I couldn't get my arm to put the corner of the sheet over the mattress. And I just sat on the floor and I just cried. I'm going, my body doesn't work. This is not fair whatsoever. My husband having to come in and go, it's just a bed sheet. It's not a big deal. No one's dying. This is not an emergency. It's just a sheet. And if you would have asked, I could have helped you. Instead, you're a mess on the floor.
Sounds like my husband and me. It's like, I don't need help. I'm good.
Trying to do everything, and then you're sitting and kind of feeling exhausted and overwhelmed and feeling like you've spent all this time doing stuff and yet nothing is done. It's like, that's not a schedule. That's not working. You've the only person who can change that is you. So pick a different schedule. Find something else that works. Find a middle ground where you can get done some hard things and then some really, really easy things to make you feel like you're doing progress. Because as long as you have progress, you have a list, you check those things, then you feel good, and then you want to do it all again.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. I started this new system where I do a rotation. So like with like my podcast and YouTube and stuff, I have it right here above me. And so I have record the podcast. We're doing that right now. And that checks off the list. So the next time I have energy to work, I do the next thing on the list, which is edit the podcast. And then once that's done, I can move to emails. And I used to like get so distracted with like emails or like all this other stuff that I thought of, or I need to do shorts. I need to do, like, there's so many things I could do. And I have all these ideas. But when I like rotate it and just say like, okay, so I'm just going to read it. Podcast, record podcast, edit podcast, emails. Then I'm going to make 4 shorts from the podcast that I edited. Then I record my second video of the week and edit that video, make the thumbnail. And then I have my other section. And my other section is anytime I have, it's like my wish list. I go to my wish list for my work, and like all the things that I come up with that like just come to my mind. I'm like, oh, I got to do that. And I try to like put it ahead of like editing the podcast, and the podcast never gets edited. Instead, I'm like, I'm going to write it down on my wish list. When I get to the other section, I can pull out the wish list. I can pick 1 to 2 things to do. And then I don't have to worry about it until I get back into that rotation. Then I go back to like, okay, now we're going to record the next episode of the podcast. And what's nice about this, whether it's like cleaning and you're like, okay, bathrooms, and then, making bed or doing dishes, whatever's on your list, is if you're not feeling well, if you're having a really bad day, it's not like, oh, I'm behind. It's like, no, I didn't edit the podcast the next day. So now I just wait till the next day I feel good. And then I'm like, oh, next thing on my list, edit podcast. So that's what I'm on. Instead of feeling like, oh, I'm so behind. There's no getting behind. It's just a circle. Like my list just goes in a circle. And then the random stuff that I add to the wish list, that's on the side. And that happens when it happens. But I don't have to like feel like I'm behind, because I'm just going to keep going.
It's not like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday thing.
Right.
And
I tried that. It did not work.
No, I've got something similar of specific chunks of my day means I have to do a specific task. So where's my list?
Oh yeah, like a what's it called? Like a block. Like blocking your day.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually that's in my work.
It's a very, very lost version.
Yes, exactly.
So like before everyone goes to school, I have coffee and I get kids to school.
Yeah, that's it.
Anything above that, brilliant. After I get home from walking to school, then I can eat. And I will either do a load of laundry or I will shower. I find if I shower at nighttime, I normally have really, really curly hair and it just ends up like lion's mane the next day. So I'm like, I shower in the morning. It's much better. I will have around midday because my husband works from home. So he'll have lunch kind of in the middle of the day. And I'll either use that time to do another job because I've got his help. And then I find my energy levels are the lowest after lunch. Because for whatever reason, I eat lunch and I feel so sick afterwards. So I'm like, right, it's nap time. It's just all the energy back into my body before the kids get home. And then when the kids get home, it's snack time. And then we'll either sit outside or catch up on YouTube videos, or my kids love to have dance parties where I play music from like the 2010s and be like, this was cool. And then during dinner, we will clean up the kitchen while I'm making dinner. And then we use that time to obviously eat, but also kind of catch up with everyone's day. And my husband's finishing work and kind of it's just re family time. And then there's that weird time where you want your kids to go to bed, but it's too early for them to go to bed. So you kind of have to figure out how to do with them until bedtime.
Yeah.
I feel like every family's got that block of like, now what do we do? And then the kids go to bed and you're like, okay, now I can doom scroll. I'm done for the day.
I made it. I made it to my day.
Anything above that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's kind of the bare basics. Otherwise, I'm in bed. And at some point, I will try and get out and have food. But either way, my kids have to go to school and we have to eat.
And that's it. And everything else is going to be just fine. We can do on another day.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah. And I kind of set my day up in like a block too. And it's like, yeah, like my cleaning block, it's not like, oh, I have to get my whole house cleaned. I have 2 hours to clean. It's like, no, I have the bare minimum that I do. And like today, my husband made the bed because I was like, that's going to be in the background. Clothes are a little off, but that's okay. He did his best. And like some days I can't do the dishes. I'm going to save those for my husband. And I mean, I'm very blessed to have him there, but there are other days where I get a lot done, but I gotta do one thing, like one cleaning thing during this block I set aside for cleaning. And if that's it, then that's okay. If all I do is wipe down one corner of the counter, that's all I could do that day, and that's okay.
That's my corner. I did that all by myself.
Yes, exactly.
I'll be like my gold star. Thank you very much.
Yes. I love it. Do you have any other advice for anyone who lives chronically ill?
Is one thing, but it's specifically for parents. I lived with a mum who was chronically ill. She had ovarian cancer for, 11, 12 years, something like that. And then before that, she had chronic depression. So she was on the kind of meds where she didn't really know which way it was up. And it was always the, I don't feel very well, can you make dinner type conversation, or I need to go lay down, can you just clean up for me? And it puts a bit of a guilt of I have to do this because my mum can't, sort of something. And I never want my kids to feel like that, ever. So I try to never say to them, hey, I don't feel very well. Do you want to try cooking dinner? Because it makes my health their problem, which is not the case at all. It's always, and I've done it a couple of times now, I will give my kids, specifically my eldest, 2 options for dinner. 2 that I know that they could cook. We'll cook with very little assistance. And I go, okay, so which one would you like? And they'll pick one and be like, okay, your turn. They just look at you and go, wait. They're like, I'm right here. If you need assistance, but you are so smart and you are so capable, your turn. And I don't have to explain the reason they're cooking is I don't feel very well and I can't stand up for more than 5 minutes. But it gives them a challenge and they have to meet it. And so now it makes dinner time and teaching them what a life skill that they're going to need anyway. It gives me an early opportunity to kind of give them. And it takes the emphasis of why we're doing something and it makes it a teachable moment. It makes me feel like a really good parent. Even if I've done absolutely nothing for them. Because it's the same thing with like cleaning routines. It's a life skill they're going to have to know how to do anyway. Why not do it now while I can still have influence, while I can still kind of correct unnecessary long-term versions to do something. And it also gets the house clean at the same time. And it means I don't have to bend up and pick up the little tiny toys. They can do it for me because it's not my responsibility. But it's
so good.
There is nothing worse than being the kid with a chronically ill parent and feeling like you have to step up because they won't. That's not fun at all. And it takes a lot of mental health later to kind of undo that of I was a parent at such a young age for my siblings that I feel like I've been doing this forever. That may not have been the entire reality, but at 10 years old, looking after 3 very young kids, that it was too much and it shouldn't have been the case. So now that my daughter is 10, I'm like, first of all, I have no idea what to do with a 10-year-old. Like, what do you like to do in your spare time? Because my spare time wasn't really that. But it's making it a challenge that they have to meet. And if they can't meet it, that's fine. We can then try it again. We have the space and the time to be able to input and have our influence before school and the outside world really kind of take all of that. The other thing is to process things in front of them and let them see how you work through a pain day, how you work through the really, really hard moments of going, I have nothing left, and yet I still have to find something to make sure that you're okay, because that's a skill that many people have. And it's a strength that not many people have. I mean, we do it all day, every day because we have to. But people who don't or have no comprehension of what it is that we have to do, they're just like, how in the world do you get up? And you're like, I have no choice. But if your kids can see the process of that, it's a skill they can take into, hey, this situation feels really overwhelming. I have the skills to fall back on to make this situation work for me, I guess. It's using our pain for their long-term enjoyment.
No, that's so good. I am totally going to use that because it is such a hard balance of how honest do I be with them of like I'm not feeling well without putting it on them. But I think that's exactly right. Like it's not that we're putting extra on them. Like when I take my wheelchair out, I always tell my daughter, you do not have to push me. I can push myself. I can, try to figure something out. Daddy can push me or whatever. Like I can figure it out, but she's always like, no, I want to. It's really fun for me. But I'm always like, I got to make sure she knows that this is not like, I don't expect it. I don't expect her to take care of me, but then at the same time, like I appreciate it so much. And I see how like empathetic it's teaching her to be. If she sees anyone sick or sad, she just immediately like goes to them. She stops what she's doing and she'll just like sit and she won't even say anything. She knows that like sometimes you just need to sit and in quiet, but have someone there and things like that. That's like she's learning. But I do have this fear that like, am I putting too much on her? But I feel like you just hit it right on the nail. Like that it doesn't have, like, yes, there's sometimes where like I maybe can't cook or I can't clean and I need help from the kids, but I don't have to make that because mom's sick, now it's on you. But we can use this opportunity as a learning opportunity. It's almost like that growth mindset, right? Like, let's learn that, use this for their growth, for my growth, without making it, now you have to take care of me as a child. So
we do height responsibility, which is where I am, for the moment, this much taller than my daughter. So I will put everything away that I can reach, and my daughter will put everything away she can reach, and my son will put everything away that he can reach. So if it's on the floor, my son is the shortest, he has to pick it up.
That's good.
And it takes away from the, I physically hurt to pick up stuff because it uses stomach muscles that I can't afford to use. But you're closer. You can get it. It's now your job.
Yeah.
It's all in the way you phrase it. It's all in the way of, it's not so much let's make this fun, because it is a responsibility you have to do, but it's not just my responsibility. It's not your kids helping you. It's you've all made the mess. We're all a team. It's all of your responsibility to clean up.
Right.
Some others, you decide to tip all of the Lego on the floor. That is entirely on you, buddy. I'm really sorry, but you have to pick it up. Like, someone else is going to get mad and you're going to feel bad, and you are the only person to blame for that. Not me. But it's the accountability. And like you said, my kids are the same. Their empathy for someone who is feeling unwell is so high, and they understand so much more of what that means. Charlie and Abby will put shows on when I'm not really, really well, and they will go out of their way to make me smile. My daughter is so unbelievably weird and funny. It's fantastic. But she will go into, I have to make everyone happy. And she will do it in the most bizarre way possible, that you just like, you're so weird. I love you.
It's so cute.
They'll turn really mundane things into something that sounds funny. Like our garbage bins have names.
Oh,
they have voices, because it's mundane to pick up leaves out of the garden, but they have to collect the salad for the Mrs. Brown bin, and you're like, okay,
that's so cute.
Like, I get dinner and a show. This is great.
Yeah.
But especially because of all of the hospital life that we lived in, you had to kind of ignore the fact that you had chemo through your kids' veins, and you had to, sounds terrible, you had to make it a fun experience, because otherwise they wouldn't do it again. But also combining that with complete and utter honesty of just going, this hurts, this sucks, what are we going to do about it? Can't get any worse, so let's try and make this better. We can't change what we have to do, but we can change how we do it.
So helpful. I have learned so much. I feel like these are just like the perfect timing for me. All the things we talked about were things that I was struggling with and needed a little extra support on. Hey friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one-on-one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific, real-world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.